we coined the phrase time piloting as part of some of the training we do. I have always talked about time in more than time management. Because to me, time management is just very bureaucratic, right? And gotta watch my line. Make sure that you have to take all sorts of things into consideration to make good decisions about your time, be in charge of your time, not just manage it. That's why we went around with it. So this way and then down.
Push down. There you go.
Okay, so we kind of just talked about that. What is time piloting? Is bringing all of these pieces together, again, to be in charge, piloting your time, not just managing it. So staying the course is very, very important. One of the stories that we tell about this is a sightseeing trip. They were on their way to see a nice lake. Now, if you think about when you're traveling hundreds of miles and you get off course just a degree, it can have major impacts. In fact, in this particular story, which actually is a real story, they got off course by a degree, that many miles, they actually hit a mountain instead of landing by the lake. So it makes a big difference because of the direction you're going and how you're going to get there. So in this case, your destination is your goal. What are you trying to accomplish? What do you want to do? Where do you want to be with your business or something in your personal life? I always talk about you need to look at both, not just I'm going to plan my business and oh, by the way, this is personal life over here. That is, I'm not going to plan for. You always have to look at both. Look at where you're trying to go. So there's a couple different ways to talk about setting your goal. There are, in addition to setting the goal, you have to have that plan in place to get there, right? A goal without a plan is just a wish. Because when you get there, just say, I wish I get there, and it magically happens. So one way to set goals is SMART goals. This tends to appeal to people that are more structured. Because you go through that process of you're going to do something specific, you're going to have a plan, you're going to have something that is time-bound, you're going to have a way to measure it. A lot more structure, but also very successful for people that like structure. People that are not quite as structured, dumb goals is a great way to go. And really be bold, daring, not as structured. Part of the themes to this whole conversation are going to be you need to find the things that resonate for you and work for you. Because we're all different. Different things work for different people. The key is really finding the thing that works for you. When you're going to put your plan in place, you need to put some steps in place. I love this graphic on the far side because people often say, I want to make these big step, big step, big step. And then they never get started because the step is too big, right? They can't get there. But if you do a little step, a little step, a little step, you'll get there. I was actually listening to a book this morning called Atomic Habits. Have you heard of that book at all? Yeah, it talks about little change compounds, right? Same idea with the setting the steps in place for your plan. One step at a time, next step, next step, next step, next step. So you want to make sure you have put that plan in place. On the right side, there's an example of putting some action steps together. Who's going to own it? Again, you want to have a real plan, not just a, let's call 10 people and hope we get some clients. But where are you going to find the people to call? Who's going to call them? Where is it on your calendar to call them? What resources do you need? I also talk about that contingency planning piece. Because does everything run 100% smoothly? No, right? Stuff is going to happen. In fact, I was in a networking meeting this morning, and they were talking about crisis management, and we talked, those of us who were around, talked about the year 2000, the management had to go into place for that, all the contingency planning in case something didn't go right when that clock struck midnight, and also the response for 9/11. Things like the stock exchange. All of a sudden, a business day is not a business day. There were contingency plans in place. I was at American Express at the time. There were contingency plans in place for anything that might happen to cause the stock exchange to not run as scheduled, right? So for your own businesses, you want to think about what might not work right. What if a supplier goes out of business? What if a supplier runs out of what you're looking for? Wouldn't it be a good idea to have a second or third supplier in place? What if you have a labor shortage? Where else might you find people with the skill set that you need? A company I'm working with right now, they're planning, they're in construction, and the next phase of what they're going to do is actually start a training program for carpenters. That's their way of making sure that one, they're giving back to the community and helping with some job training, but at the same time, they're helping ensure that they have the labor that they're going to need going forward. Right? So that's one way to think about contingency planning. And think ahead a little bit. Nothing is better than having an idea of what you're going to do when something happens, as opposed to never having thought about it, all of a sudden it happens. You're like, what are we doing now? But if you thought about it, you got an idea or two of what was going to happen. So that's looking at planning and having some contingencies in place. Now, I talked about the fact that everybody's different and things work for different people. So one thing that we talk about is what is your rhythm? Because now we're going to talk about time. How do you work with time? How does time work with you? Everybody's different. How long can you concentrate on something? You're a morning person or a night person? Or at any time of the day person? Can you concentrate for 3 or 4 hours in a row and be fine? Or is it hard to concentrate for 20 minutes at a time? One thing to make sure you know is what is your personal rhythm. This is kind of the average. The average is 90 minutes of productivity and then 20 minutes of rest. But having gone through this with people for the last couple of years, there are lots and lots of people. I've run into people that they're actually 9 to 5. They are active all day long. Move, 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 move. 5 o'clock comes, they have got to crash. So that's what works for them. I have some other people I've worked with that 20 minutes is a struggle. Concentrating on something for 20 minutes is not easy. We're going to talk about one of the tips that we share with those people to help them stay on track. Or others that are very visionary, they can think about and to work on stuff for 3 or 4 hours and miss the 3 or 4 things they're supposed to get done besides that. So one way to understand that about yourself is to track what goes on with you. Take some time and track what are you doing all day and how are you feeling about it. Are you excited? Are you motivated? Are you energized? Are you focused? Or are you distracted? You're tired, you have a hard time concentrating. If you track this for yourself for a week, because that gives you the trends, you'll start to see what happens. I've had clients that are very surprised about things they discover when they track this. And then you take this in consideration how you're planning out your time. Some of us were talking about time blocking earlier. Time blocking works for some people. Doesn't work as well for other people that are more reactive and more shiny object oriented. So this is a way to make sure you understand what's going on with you. So we've talked about where you're going, how important it is to stay on course, what you are trying to do as your destination, that your rhythm really affects how you do what you do. Understanding all of those pieces about yourself is a key to this time planning. As I referenced earlier, all these things pull together, not just managing the data, what are we going to do from 8 to 9, but all of these things in consideration about how you're going to manage your time, or part of your time. So you did that exercise to track everything you were doing, how you felt about it, if you were focused, not focused, energized, not energized. One great thing to do is go through this exercise to determine what still needs to be on your plate. What needs your authority and what needs your expertise? Because not everything does, right? So the first thing to do when you look at what that list you just made is what can be deleted. Are you still doing things that don't serve you anymore? They might have served your goals for last year, but you've just gotten in a habit of doing them and they don't matter anymore. Those things can just be deleted. Get them off the plate. Are there things that need to be done but don't need your expertise or authority? And believe me, I know it's hard to delegate. I spent 17 years in corporate America. Probably for 5 years, the theme of the performance review was, Alice could learn to delegate more. Alice could learn to delegate more. It took some time, but Alice did learn how to delegate. But it is a process. So for those of you that it's like, I can't delegate stuff, nobody's going to do it as well as I do it. Or they're not going to have the same result that I have. It is a process to go through, have some structure to it, write down how to do it, what the expectations are, and the training. If you take the time like that, you'll be successful in delegating. Not easy, but good to do. Deferring is all about timing things appropriately. So there's things on that list that need your authority or your expertise that are not due tomorrow. They're maybe due, let's say it's December, so January 15th. Take a look at how long it's going to take to do that project and time it out appropriately. Not be, oh my God, it's top of mind, I gotta do it today. That can be deferred. That's not avoiding and that's not procrastinating. It's making good decisions about where you're spending your time and planning things out appropriately. And then of course, last on the list is things you just need to do. It requires your authority, your expertise, and it is due this week. So it needs to stay on the plate and get done appropriately. This is my favorite laws, Parkinson's law. How many have heard of Parkinson's law? Of course everyone has. This is all about what you're doing will fill the time that you allocated to it. One of the videos I've done before is called, Does It Take an Hour? People default to an hour for meetings typically, right? But is it really going to take an hour? If you schedule an hour, it's going to take an hour. But part of planning your time is looking at how long is this meeting going to take based on what's the goal of the meeting? Which is also a good thing to have, right? What's the outcome of this meeting going to be? Are we making a decision? Are we doing an update? Typically, you just want to say, we're going to chat for an hour, 2 hours, right? So you want to know what that time is meant to do, schedule it accordingly. My calendar link, I've got a 45-minute time frame I use for connecting. More than half an hour, make sure you don't cut people short, but not that whole hour. You can gain an hour or two in your day by just doing that, scheduling 45 minutes instead of 1 hour. So good pilots make decisions about how long is it going to take, what's the goal, and that is a good use of everybody's time. Because if you sit in a room and say, we've got an hour and a half, I bet you will be done in an hour and a half. Have you guys experienced that before? A meeting that didn't need to take that long, but you sure used all the time? So this is one of my favorites, and not very well known. Here's some other tools that you can use. So planners, lots of people are still on paper, no problem with that, right? Or Outlook, or Google. Again, what's that tool that works for you? You need to have some way of tracking where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing. So it's another example of pick the thing that works for you. One of my favorite things is the Rockin book. It combines both things. I still like to write, but I'd like a way to be able to sort my notes and search on things and not have to retype them all. So the Rockin book lets you write everything out, you draw pictures, do whatever you want to do, and then you scan it, and wherever you tell it to go, it goes. And you can go back and search on it. The Pomodoro technique. This is another opportunity for timers. This particular one is all about working for 25 minutes and then taking a break and doing this several times in a row. This is an example of that timer thing again, like I said. So you know yourself, right? If it takes you longer than you want, set a timer. The timer reminds you, either bring your attention to, I've been doing this for 2 hours, but I should be doing something else now. Or, if you need to concentrate on something and just not be distracted, set it for that 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and just go light at the end of the tunnel. In 25 minutes, you can get up and do something else. Get up and walk around the block, get a drink of water. Again, it's all about knowing yourself so you make good decisions on how you can be most productive with your time. Time blocking, as we said, this works for lots of people as well. I'm always going to do my calls in the morning, or I'm always going to do my calls in the afternoon. And here's where having figured out your own rhythms helps a lot. I'm a night owl, but I can't call people at 10 o'clock at night. Well, I do have some people at the East Coast, or the West Coast, I call it 10 o'clock at night. So one, knowing your rhythm helps you plot your activities based on your productive time of day. And it helps you be aware of things you need to do that are not at your productive time of day. One of my mortgage broker clients always slow down in the afternoon. Always, always, always. So we moved his workout time to the afternoon. Made a world of difference for his late afternoon and early evening. Because he got out of the office, exercised, his brain got a break, he came back and was productive the whole rest of the afternoon. So again, it's the whole knowing your own rhythms and being able to plot your time accordingly. And learn how to work around them. This is Melissa's favorite one. This is Stay Focused, which is actually a computer app that will do a couple different things. If you're concerned you spend too much time on Facebook because you lose yourself for 3 hours, this will come up and say, hey, guess what? You've been on Facebook for 20 minutes already. Are you sure you need to be there? You can also tell it not to let you on Facebook during certain times of the day.
That's cool.
Is that an app on your phone too, or just the computer?
It's an app for your computer. It's my favorite. My face is up there. I use it all the time.
Yeah, it's Melissa's
Helps
favorite.
you stay focused.
It protects you from yourself. Oh, in fact, this is a tool we should add next time, which is Calendly. Calendly protects me from myself. Instead of me being in the middle of my calendar scheduling people, I'm like, oh, they really need some help. I'm gonna squeeze them into this open spot. I just work with Calendly. Even if I'm on the phone with somebody, I use Calendly to schedule them. And then Calendly has some rules built in. So for me, there's a 15-minute buffer before and after every meeting. I can't schedule anything back to back. I, however, if left to my own devices, will schedule stuff back to back because I think I'm trying to help people, right? So Calendly is another way to protect you from yourself. And put some borders in place, boundaries in place for yourself, right? Because you can build all sorts of rules into that. No meetings before X amount of time. No meetings after X amount of the day. No meetings on Saturday and Sunday. No meetings that are longer than 45 minutes or an hour. So that's another tool that helps you stay on track. The parking lot, one of my most very favorite things. When you are focused on something, but a great idea comes to mind, or something goes across your screen that reminds you of something, write it down on the parking lot. This will get it off your mind, and it also assures you that you will not forget it. You will go back to it because you made a note about it on the parking lot. Then at the end, what I do is I close out the day at the end of the day, and I plan the next day at night, because again, I'm a night owl. So I always go through the parking lot, make sure something either got done, assigned, delegated, it gets dealt with by the end of the day. But it didn't keep me from being focused and productive in the middle of the afternoon when I was focused on something else. But I didn't lose the idea. So I love the parking lot. It's one of my most favorite things. Accountability partners. Thank you. Accountability partners are key because it helps you stay on track. We can often, the human mind can convince yourself of just about anything you want to. Oh, sure, I can just do one more thing. I don't have to do that right now, I can do it tomorrow. An accountability partner will help you stay on track. I'm sorry, I was thinking I thought it was a different slide. Accountability partners will, one, call you on your bullshit. If you're trying to convince yourself that something's gonna be okay, and they're like, no. They will also help you identify blind spots. You might be so focused on something you don't notice that there's an issue over here because you're just not seeing it, right? They will point those blind spots out to you. And they'll also be what's called your red light. If you are so far off track, they will be able to say, you know what? That far off track, stop. We need to recalibrate and get back to that course we're supposed to be on. There's also something to be said for increasing your ability to achieve things. So the first step is consciously deciding to do something. That increases your likelihood of success because you actually consciously decided to do it. Adding clear steps, having that action plan with deadlines and resources increases your success rate even more. Committing your goal to somebody else creates 65% greater chance of success. Because if you tell somebody else you're going to do something by tomorrow or by next week, now you know somebody else knows you're supposed to do that. You can't just gloss over it in your own mind, right? You've committed to somebody else, so that's going to get done. And then having that accountability plan in place, whether it's an accountability partner, an accountability group, that gives you even greater success rate, up to 95%. Accountability, I would talk about accountability is not a bad word. Sometimes people see that as negative, like it's somebody who's trying to make you do stuff, but it's really helping you stay on track, helping you be accountable to yourself, really, right? Accountable to what you wanted to do. So we talked a lot about stuff today, right? Lots of pieces of information. Time pilot is taking all of these things together so you can plot your course and make decisions about your time, be in charge of your time and what you want to do. Talk about how important it is to stay on course. The whole, do you want to hit the mountain or the lake? Mountain or the lake? Mountain or the lake? You want to stay on course. Your rhythm impacts how you operate every day, when you're productive, when you're not, how you stay focused, how you can make sure that you're staying on course. Your personal rhythm is a big factor in that. Oops. And we talked about all sorts of different tools. And as I kind of stated when we started, everybody's different. You need to take from this the things that work best for you. Try some things out. You might say, hey, that rhythm thing, I've never heard about trading rhythms. I should check out how I work. So of course, the very first thing is to pick one of these things that works for you and implement it. And I would say when you implement something, that means you start with putting it on your calendar. When in the day, what time, you're actually gonna work on that. Because again, it can just be a wish. It can just be this ethereal thing until you start putting some traction under it and put it on your calendar. So thank you so much for your time today. I hope you were intrigued by time cutting and find something interesting about that and implement it to improve your success.